Hello there, and a very warm welcome. I would love to introduce you today to one of the most bubbly people that I know. Kerry Lee is her name, and you'll hear exactly why I say bubbly as we have our chat together today. You'll probably notice her Clifton strengths of positivity. And while we're on that topic, I'm going to name her other strengths so that you know who you're talking to. So her top five is connectedness, strategic thinking, positivity, adaptability, and maximizer. So, welcome, Kerry.
Thank you, Liesel. Always good to be with you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to share a little bit more about you, Kerry, and then we're going to dive into some questions that I'd love to ask you. So, for our listeners who may not know me or Kerry, Kerry invited me in 2020 to this amazing thing that she created that we're going to share with you more today about her 5 month self discovery wisdom school. And at the end of those 5 months, the participants loved it so much that they didn't want it to end and they asked her to extend it. That is amazing. So, we want to share a few tidbits today about the school and how Kerry miraculously brought together three different tools together with her art that she calls intentional creativity. And she said that she had creative constipation for many years, and this thing called intentional creativity sort of cured her of that. So, I would love to ask you, Kerry, first share with us what is intentional creativity?
How about if I share what creative constipation is first?
Let's
Since
go there.
it's such a crude term, but it's so true. I think everybody can kind of get what the two words are. But for me, what it meant is because of cultural conditioning, I'll say that I couldn't be viable in this world and self-sustaining as an artist. I got blocked up with my creative flow. So for literally 35 years, I could only create if I took a class, if I had a container to create within. Give me a blank canvas and I would freeze, right? And I was born an artist. I am an artist, but I really lost the capacity to have that flow. So this method of intentional creativity completely broke through that. And the reason it did is you cannot make any mistakes, right? So that perfectionist got to go by the wayside, because what happens is anything that seems like a mistake usually turns into something else that has meaning. And so it's to your benefit to just be loose and let it happen, whatever's going to happen.
Wow.
And then it becomes fun. Like all of a sudden, instead of worry about having a perfect picture, it's just play, right? So intentional creativity is really art with purpose. And when you think about it, we can create anything with intention and attention, of course, and it turns out differently than if we're not paying any attention or don't have an intention set in it. So, for instance, you have a garden, you want to plant a garden, and you want to make some soup from your garden. So, you find the perfect place in where the sun is just right. You find the seeds or the starters that you want. You tend to it with love. You grow these plants that you cut them down when it's time. You come in and you chop them up and you put them into your soup with herbs and everything else you've done. Like this whole soup is an experience, right? It turns out, and it tastes different and it nourishes you differently than if you popped open a can of soup, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like that. It's anything that you put intention to and purpose to becomes intentionally creative. It can be writing a business plan. Like it doesn't have to be a visual piece of art. It can just any sort of our creative expression can be intentional creativity.
Oh boy, that's a beautiful explanation, and I particularly love the part about letting go of perfectionism and how it can help us to just let it be okay that whatever I thought was a mistake or oh this shouldn't be like this, it's actually part of the meaning, and that just brings a lot of wow, that could be a different experience of art.
Yes, and from my experience with myself and with those that I work with, when we allow ourselves to have that space where we sort of let go of control or perceived
Ooh,
control,
scary.
that's where the seemingly magical moments happen, right? That's where the space is created for things to come into place or thoughts to happen because we aren't holding on so tight
Mm.
to whatever we're holding on tight to. So it's really important to let yourself be in that space, and creativity is the perfect way to get there because it takes your brain away from the thinking. You're just playing with color and movement and that kind of thing.
Oh wow, that sounds really juicy and awesome. And I attended one of your creativity workshops last year, and it was juicy and awesome and so loose and free and fun. So I love this. And so, what are in the Wisdom School together with this intentional creativity? What are some of the other tools that you brought together, and why is it called the Wisdom Self Discovery Wisdom School? It's all meaningful, right?
Yeah, so it's self-discovery because the myself and the three one of them being you, the three others that I collaborate with this, we are guides. We're not teachers standing in front of the room. We're walking next to each participant in this journey of exploration. So it really becomes where they discover things, but it's up to them to see how they integrate and relate in their own lives. So it's a journey together. I like to equate it to being on a cruise ship, and we're all just on this cruise ship having these experiences, and we go off on excursions on the side, which is when they go and visit, and each of you guys who are the guides. So there's of course the strengths and talents with you, Liesel, and what that does is, in a nutshell, is that helps people identify um, not talents in terms of they're a good musician or dancer or artist, that kind of thing. The talents are what you do that naturally give you energy. I'm explaining your work, but you can tell me if you want to shift it at all. It naturally gives you energy, and because it energizes you when you do these things that you're naturally good at, you want to keep doing them. And because you want to keep doing them, you do keep doing them, and then you start to master whatever it is. So that becomes a talent. So as I see it, that's really important, of course, for our fulfillment within, but also what we have to offer the world, right? If we are all living in our innate talents, in that sense of what energizes us and we do the most and it's fun, that right there alone, the world would shift its attitude in so many ways, right? So there's that aspect. And then we also use human design. And human design, it helps you learn about decision making processes really based on your body's reactions or certain processes that you go through internally to help you make solid decisions in the moment, but that are good for you, like forever, really. So that's it's about being, I'll call it, in your flow and staying in your flow so that life just feels easeful and empowered and fun and rewarding and fulfilling and all those good things that we all want. Um,
Mhm.
so the other one is called Mayan Dream Spell. And Mayan Dream Spell is more about looking at your light, in the light of your energy or your light behaviors or your best self, and your shadow part of yourself, your not best self, I'll say. And again, when you're in your best self, you're in the flow of your own life. Like you have a different experience of life than when you're struggling, right?
Mm.
Or stuck, or just things don't feel good. And so this dream spell, it actually gives you tangibles to hold on to in terms of thoughts and behaviors and actions to know if you're in your own flow. And you know it once you learn them. You're like, oh yeah, I love it when it's like that. But the great thing is you can recognize when you're out of your own flow, and you know how to course correct to get back in. Because I mean, from my own experiences, I definitely knew when I was in flow, right? When things are going great. I definitely knew when I was out, but I had no idea how to get back. So this is a
Yes.
tool for that. And then it also looks at 10 significant relationships in your life and what the karmic connection really is on those relationships. Because as I see it, the strengths are out in the world, right? I mean, again, they're still rewarding, but they're what you have to offer the world. The
Mm.
human design is about your decision making and within yourself how to best operate. And then the dream spell is your ecosystem. It's the people around you that you still need to operate in that world. And then we use the intentional creativity to weave it all together and to integrate it deeper so that you can really have the experience of it all in a deeper way than just listening.
Yeah, wow, you explained all of this so beautifully, and I'm very impressed with your with your understanding of strengths and how you explain it's about what energizes us so we can do more of it and it energizes us more and so we can really master that. I love that. So I I just think, Kerry, that you've brought together such a unique thing. I am absolutely, I know that nowhere else in the world something like this can exist at the moment. because of your unique history and background and these three very unique tools. And that's exactly something that I love so much about the strings is it shows us how unique we are. And here you brought together something so unique. So just a little bit, if you would like to share how you used, because when I work with strings, I help people to understand them. That's what I did in the school is understand it. Um, how to make the most of them, what not to worry about, stop expecting certain things of yourself. But how did you bring it together in the school, sort of practically, because you brought it together with the art? And I think that's what's so different.
Yeah.
You want to show us some pictures or?
I'll show you some pictures, and I don't know. I just did because I see connectedness. I see, as I see it, let's imagine we're all in a relay race, and it's not really a race, but that's the best analogy I can think of. Where the four of us who are collaborating on this experience for people, we have a baton that we have to pass to each other. Maybe it's a slow race, whatever it is. But we have this moment where our batons pass to each other, and that's where there's a crossover where you can see the link between the methods, and yet each section is different, right? They're learning this different aspect of themselves. And it's really, I walked the walk. I walked the walk. My life changed, imploded, as I say, 12 years ago. And I decided to reclaim that artist part of myself and to make a difference in the world. I had no idea how, right? No idea. It was not the life I was living. And so I had to go on my own journey of self-discovery and kind of becoming a self-discovery junkie. And just picking up the methods, and then this just all made so much sense together. And then to integrate it with my specialty, which is the creativity, it turns it into a different experience. I'm going to give you another analogy. I can't help it because it's hard to explain. Is, let's just imagine that we're each butterflies, okay? And we each have a garden that we live in, and we've lived in this garden our entire lives, and it's a beautiful garden, hopefully, right? But it's your garden and you know it well. Well, all of a sudden, when you do this, literally, you only need it once in your lifetime, this program. Like what you learn here, you can carry it through the rest of your life. You don't have to repeat it. So it's your garden. So what happens is, as you're learning these things, all of a sudden you're seeing the flowers and the vegetables and the little insects and all the other things that are in the garden with a completely different perspective, a much deeper perspective. You're seeing inside of those flowers, right? You're seeing how they operate or how they're built. And yet it's this light, colorful butterfly experience because it's not intense. We're not digging trenches, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Um, so that's sort of the experience that it ends up being. So yes, I
Oh,
will show you some visuals here. Um,
beautiful. I
of
love that. It's light and it's free and it's just filled full of color and juice. That's how I see
yeah,
it. Yes.
yeah, and I had such a difficult time putting words to this that I had to come up with these analogies of what it is. So I just want to show you three of the projects that we do, and we start with Clifton Strengths for it. So shall I make this bigger? Is that
That's good. Yes.
okay? That's good. So it's a symbolic drawing. It's not necessarily a piece of art that you would hang on the wall, although I encourage the participants to hang it on their wall so they can really just focus on one small part at a time and really learn it. Um, but it's all the information that you give each person, Liesl. So everyone gets different information, but the same questions, we'll say, right? Everybody has the same questions, but we're all unique and we all have different answers. So
So say
um,
a bit more about what you mean when you say the questions. Does it relate to this beautiful drawing
yes,
here?
thank you. It does. So, for instance, there's two hands because this, again, it's symbolic. And so typically it is said that our dominant hand, which I'm going to just choose the right because that's more common, is the receiving hand or the giving hand, I'm sorry. And the other hand is your receiving hand. And so this hand represents, there's the top five values. And here, I'm sorry, the top five strengths. And here's your top values to give. And then the other one has your top values that are important for you to receive, right? So that's the whole fulfillment and what you have to offer the world. And then up
Great.
here is represents an in breath and an out breath. So here's the out breath here, and that's the main contributions for the world. And the
Right.
in breath is your main needs from the world, right?
Right.
And then you taught us about these theme talents, which maybe, do you want me to share about those?
Oh, right. Yes, like your core talent and yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, share a little bit
Okay.
what you got from that.
So this is the core talent that runs through all of your other experiences of your talents. For me, it's positivity. I can't help but see the world through rose-colored glasses and get called bubbly. I just can't help it, you know?
Just happens.
Yes. And then some have a spiritual talent, some do not. I do because I see the connectedness that's not necessarily visible, I'll say. Um, and then down here, I love this. This is an ignition. This fire is the ignition talent. And that's the one that gives you energy when you do it. And for
Right.
me, it's the connectedness. Like when I see the connections of things, it just gets me all excited, which is why I created a whole school with the connections that I saw. And
Yes.
then, yes, and then there's also the relaxing theme. That's kind of this wave of water. And that's the one that when you do it, it just calms you and brings you like to a more centered place. And I'm explaining your work again, so add whatever you want. Um,
Beautiful.
and the guilt theme is the things that you may have been given guilt about in your life experience. And I'm pretty lucky. I haven't been given too much of this, but people do say sometimes take off your rose colored glasses, see the reality of things. My reality is rose colored glasses. Like it just is. I'm the one who finds the silver linings almost as bad as quick as a bad thing happens. That is the way it is. So it's good to really be able to identify what each of these are for ourselves and be able to go to them like when you need to relax, what can you focus on, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. It's so great knowing it in that way for for our energy management. What's going to switch me on? I'm having a really off day. What can switch me on? Okay, I'm too up in my head. My brain can't relax. I need to sleep. What can I do to relax? So it's all of that. And I just want to say I absolutely love how you bring it together with the color and the symbol, this the symbolic thing, which is absolutely what I think we need to understand is we use our strengths all of the time anyway, whether we know them or not. But doing it with intention just makes it so much more powerful. So your creation of these art projects, because I think that's the basic thing with every you bring in the guide, like me, strengths. I help the people to understand their strengths, and then you create an art project to help people
Yes.
make more of that and really integrate it and make it part of their life. And the
Yes.
way that you did it here just talks to me completely about your strengths. Your connectedness is in this picture, how you brought it all together with symbols and building bridges between this thing and that thing is just, our strengths are everywhere and they're
Yes.
so much more powerful when we can use them with intention.
Yes. Right. And so the idea is to really integrate them so that they're almost, I'll say, memorized, but they're memorized in a fun way because you've been
Yes.
playing with them. And then again, ideally, this is out where you can see it often and you can come back and, review just small chunks of it, just little bits at a time. And it's a slow process. That's why it's 5 months. It's like very spacious. We meet every 2 weeks. So it's meant to be expansive, but not intense.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's so unique what you've created, Kerry. Honestly, I just can't get over how, I can do strings with people. That's my talents and my passion and everything, but I can't do what you've done here to help it make it really juicy and real and integrated. And then you did that with all with the other tools as well. Make an art project for human design and for um please my mind dream spell.
Yeah,
Yes.
and yet there's no way I could do what you do because you have this insight into people with your strengths that I don't. So it really, that's
Mm,
that whole baton passing thing as well, right? Is that we each
yes.
just take our little piece of it. So, and that's what I
Yes.
love because I also love collaboration. So, and
Yeah.
everybody's turns out slightly different, because we're all different. So these are all hand drawn and colored in their own ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then show would you do you want to show us some of the human design or the mind
Yeah.
dream spell
Yeah, so
ones?
let me just show you a little bit of each one. So these are human design altars. So they can go on a desk or one of them put hers on the wall. And you put your candle, your flowers, or your rock, or whatever you want to put next to it. But again, it's a way to remind you of what you're discovered. So for instance, one of the things that you learn is how to make decisions, what your energetic superpower is, like what you're built to do. You can think of it as models of cars. Are you a tow truck or are you a
Wow.
racing car? right? And it doesn't, there's no judgment on which one you are, but it's really good to know how your vehicle operates best. So you can just be in that passenger seat and enjoy the ride, right? So this isn't about the destination. This is absolutely about enjoying the experience of life. There's also self-care strategies, and then you'll know when you're in your flow and when you're out of your flow. And so for me personally, I feel satisfied when I'm in the flow. That's pretty easy. That's nothing too dramatic. And I feel frustrated when I'm out of my flow. And I've always said frustration's my hardest emotion. So to have it affirmed in my own human design was like, well, no wonder. Because I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't know what to do with it when I'm frustrated. So
Yes.
everybody will learn their own. And then the other one that was super fun is this is the dream spell. And this is what I ended up calling the Starseed shooting star, because it's everybody's own individual information, but they all look so different and unique, like, again, all of us. And so to go for an example, I don't know if you can see it well, but here it says, um, actually, I'm going to go to one that's not colored there. It's easier for me to see it. So in the shadow of energy here, it's a feeling of lack,
Mm-hmm.
right? So knowing, like, if I'm going, oh, woe is me, and knock it off. Like, I know that I'm knocking myself out of my flow. I can feel that way, but instead, personally, what I do, this is my dream spell, is I go into gratitude, right? So that for me is my antidote. I'm the alchemical artist, and this is why, is I look for the antidotes to pull us out of these places we don't want to be. Now, it's not bypassing it, right? It's acknowledging it and it's working with it, but it's just a way to get out of it if you don't want to be in it. And then in the light of my energy, it's about being present. I'm a creative. The shiny light object thing, right? So my challenge is to stay present and in the moment. And then from that, it's about truth and expansion and release and change and inspiration, which is interesting because that's what the school is about. Like, that is the purpose of the school. Um, and down here, I just want to read this because I thought this was interesting. So these are archetypes, and mine is called the white wind. And this is the words that were given to me from my report, and they so fit in terms of, again, what I'm doing. White wind, in the creation of possibilities and polarities, creates an alchemical process of transformation for all relationships to make towards trust, openness, and unconditional acceptance. And that's really what all this is, right? It's about accepting ourselves unconditionally for who we are and embracing that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then this is pretty
Wow.
powerful too here. So to receive my gift of my archetype, all I have to do is take a conscious breath. Like, that's it. How easy is that, right? But it's true. If I just slow down and take a breath, I get centered, I let go of all that stuff, and I can sort of move forward or
Come
be in
back.
the moment or whatever it is. So, and again,
Right.
this is different for everybody. I was talking about my dream spell, but
Right.
so
And
that's the main three projects.
it's so stunning. And so the gift of this is that everybody will go through one of the gifts, everybody will know their strengths,
Yes.
everybody will know their human design and all those bits that you talked about it, and everybody will know those pieces that you showed us in the mind dream spell at the end of the 5 months.
Yes, exactly. Which makes me think I want to just show you one more project. So
Oh,
this
this
was
is
after
so
they knew all of these parts of themselves. And this on the left here, this was my original business plan seed of what I wanted to create. What are your keys? What are your pieces of the puzzle? And where's your true north? Well, that turned into the school, actually. And so one of the projects I did was have them create their own mandala. And it's really their own personal symbol. And all the layers are based on inquiry, specific questions about these different layers of themselves using all of the different methods. And they put them into symbolic lines or shapes to create their own personal symbol or mandala of themselves. So that was a really fun project. Yeah. Yeah. And some
wow.
mistakes happened during this. Like, some of them were like, oh, I made a mistake. I didn't do it just right. But some other insight would come as they worked with that little mistake. So anyhow, I can go on because I think it's really fun.
And it's beautiful. I just love the color of it. And because you know what, Kerry, we are like, as you know, we are living in difficult times.
Yes.
And we can dig into the trenches and, do some good work there, but we also need some fun and
Yes.
something to bring out the lightness and the enjoyment and fun. And this method feels to me, or this whole school experience
Yes.
feels to me like it's exploration, but it's in a fun way that teaches us we don't have to be perfect.
We don't have to be perfect, and we can have fun with all of this. Like, we
Yes.
can. And it was a very, very conscious, intentional decision for me, because I, for the majority of my life, did not use my strengths. I did not use my design. I didn't know this stuff. I did what I thought I should do. I did the treadmill I got put onto, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? Until I found my way out. And so one of the decisions that I made was that if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it, period. And that just felt so bold. How dare I claim that I'm going to have fun when that had not been my experience? And so if it's just fun, we're not doing it if it's not fun. So
That is very bold. And I bet there's a few jealous people, envious, like, how dare you just have fun, Kerry? So this is one of the processes, I think, one of the school where you can just start digging into what is it that you really want to create your life as
yeah,
when you
and
know all these bits about yourself.
yeah, and what's your version of fun, right? I mean, this is my
Yes.
version. What's your version of fun?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, beautiful. And Kerry, do you want to let us know sort of, how often does the school happen and yeah?
Yes. So it's a twice a year program. It lasts 5 months. Um, and what's happened now, as you mentioned, it's so heartwarming for me that this was my COVID business. This is my silver lining for COVID. I had to take my business online. I was all in person before. And this first group from the fall, they didn't want it to end. And they're like, no, we're not ready for this to end. Make something else. And so I was like, oh my goodness. And as my human design says, I am supposed to wait to respond. Well, what an invitation, right? To create something for them.
Wow.
So I've now created what I'm calling the living lab. And it's the lab of experiencing life in a creative and intentional way together. So it's really a community that's beginning to form. And this first session, we're going to be focusing on synchronicity and the 7 keys of synchronicity and how synchronicity ties into all of this when you start paying attention. So it's kind of next level, I'll call it.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
level 2, deeper level.
Yeah. And every 5 months, that living lab will have a different theme.
Ah, okay. So this can be ongoing for people. So if you've gone through the self-discovery wisdom school and you don't feel like having the experience taken away from you again,
Yeah.
there will be ongoing experiences
Yep.
of a similar nature where you will dive deeper and go on with another group.
That is my
And
vision for
and
it.
art, this intentional creativity is there all the
Oh,
time, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah. And
yes,
community, they learn so much from each
community.
other and each other's stories. And so, yep.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is so fantastic. And Kerry, just before we finish off, is there anything else you'd like to share or say, or just a note of wisdom or self-discovery?
My goodness. I just want to say that really there is something to following your heart and intuition, and especially if you can get some guidance along the way. But I think that our heart knows so much if we just will pay attention to it. And
Mm,
Liesel, thank you
love
for
that.
your part in this. You're an
Oh,
absolutely delightful, critical part of this whole process.
thank you. Thank you so much. It was just a joy. I can't tell you the joy I had from doing the sessions with your beautiful people because you collected such stunning people around you. And I'm looking forward to continuing on our journey together.
Yeah,
Um, And yes, so Kerry, just for our listeners, and I'll put it on the notes of our conversation today, is there will be workshops that Kerry keeps sort of puts out there to as a little taster or a way to just dive into this kind of work, Kerry.
yeah. Now and then I do one-off workshops. I don't have a regular schedule for it at this point, but that's true. So my website's kerryleeart.com, and so you can just go there and see what's going on. And if there's nothing going on at the moment, you can put your name on a mailing list, and you will know. Yeah,
Yes, yes. And I absolutely encourage anybody if you want some fun, light-hearted creativity. Every time I meet with Kerry, I just feel light and better and like uplifted afterwards. And her art projects are really fun. And it's just been a delight to get to know you and for this conversation. Thank you, Kerry, for sharing with us.
thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Yes.